Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast with me, Fred Joyle, where I interview amazing dental practice owners digging into their successes and failures, their insights and hindsights, getting their views on where dentistry is going, and discovering what it took for them to become remarkable. Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast. My guest today is my dear old friend, superstar dentist Bill Dorfman. I could spend most of the show just telling you all of the things Bill has done or been involved in or achieved in his life. We're going to get into a lot of them, but just to give you an example, he's starred on Extreme Makeover and The Doctors. He has over 1 million Instagram followers. No other dentist in the world has that many followers. He is a star dentist in Beverly Hills. He has many celebrity clients. He does really interesting things in marketing his practice, very unique things. He also co-founded Discus Dental, which started the whitening revolution in dentistry. And we're going to talk about his LEAP Foundation that he formed, which is another amazing thing. What's most remarkable is he's only 32 years old. Oh, wait, he only looks 32 years. I misread my notes here. Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's funny when you said my old friend, Bill, like we are old, Fred. We're 62 now. And we met when we were in our 30s.
Yes, we met in 86. And a lot of dentists who are listening might be going, I wasn't born then, which is always disturbing when you hear that.
Yeah.
But one of my great regrets was very early on, and you and Robert Heyman, your partner in Discus, offered me a chance to invest. And I said, no, I don't think that's going to work. So
it's
I've
funny.
been wrong before.
I drive by the old 1-800 dentist office location by the freeway there all the time. And I remember that first day when I met you and your brother and your little office. You had like 20 employees. I must have been dentist number 6 or 7 or something.
Yes, you were one of the first wave of 800 dentist members, and stayed on for a really long time. But eventually, Bill, just such a successful practice, you didn't need us, and that doesn't hurt that much. But we've gotten to do so many things together. We've gotten to do 800 dentist commercials together. So
a blast. My favorite one, I'm just going to tell this little anecdotal story because it was so funny. So you were responsible for me getting a SAG card. And for dentists who don't know what that is, in order to work in the industry, you need to be a member of SAG. And it's not easy for us to do that. However, because Fred was producing all these commercials, they invited me to come and do this commercial. So I was super busy. And they sent me what are called the sides. That's basically your lines. And it was a lot, I didn't really memorize it because I figured, well, we'll do that in rehearsal, right? So I show up on the set. There were an excess of 100 people on the set. They were filming something that was supposed to look like a Woody Allen movie. And they had artificial rain coming in this old movie theater by Fairfax and Beverly. And, I walk in and I go up to hair and makeup and and I come down and we put them in our places and the director goes, action. And I yell, cut. Okay, first of all, you're not allowed to yell cut, number one. Number two, what do you mean cut? I'm like, well, we haven't done rehearsal yet. And they looked at me like I was on drugs, like rehearsal. There's no rehearsal. You're an actor. We work on No. I'm not an actor. I'm a dentist pretending to be an actor. And they're like, no, action. So it literally I had to learn on the spot. And it was a lot of copy. I think it took me a good half hour to actually get all the words right. And it was quite an experience. And I never did that again, by the way, Fred.
Yeah, you were always kind of prepared after that.
I always came and I knew my lines.
Yeah, well, we've watched the industry evolve significantly over the years. You started in the industry when television advertising didn't even exist, and
television barely existed.
Yeah, it was black and white, and only 2 channels. But you have done so many interesting things to successfully build this. I want to call it a celebrity practice, but it's also just a thriving general dentistry and cosmetic practice. Now you get involved in cosmetics very early, I would say. You were one of the first really strong proponents of AACD. You really seized that opportunity. What drew you to that?
Doing root canals didn't make me happy. I mean, you could sit there and do the perfect crown on tooth number 2. Your patients don't care. But when you take somebody who has a cleft lip, cleft palate, and has never smiled in their life, and you can surgically repair their lip with a plastic surgeon, and you can cosmetically restore their smile and give them a beautiful, dazzling smile, and you see the tears in their eyes, that hit home for me. And not everybody. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys that, men and women, dentists that love to do endo or love ortho or love pedo or perio. Or that's great. That's the cool thing about our profession. You can do you. But for me, what hit home for me was transforming people's lives and giving them the ability to have the confidence to really smile and be proud of their smile.
I see where you could get really hooked on that, because and of course, from a marketing standpoint, I know that builds a practice, because you are sending all of these people out into the world whose lives you have transformed. I remember so many people saying when you were doing Extreme Makeover, everybody would say, when they did this person smile, that's what changed the person the most, because they did all sorts of other stuff.
Well, let me tell you something. I can quantify that for you, Fred. The Nielsen ratings, the detailed ones, come out on a minute-by-minute schedule. They know every single minute of that TV show, who's watching, who's not watching. I always got the highest ratings on dentistry. Not me, but dentistry did. Why? Think about it. 99% of the people that watch that show will never see a plastic surgeon, will never have a weight trainer, will never have a stylist, will never have any of these things. They all go to the dentist. They all have teeth, or at least need teeth, right? so
teeth, yeah.
What we were able to do on that show in dentistry was really enlighten people and educate people and take away a lot of the mystery and the fear. And that's why the dentistry was always the highest rated part, because everybody could relate to that.
Yeah, and the cases were always profound cases, but as you say, people could sit there and envision that happening for them. And it began what I would say was nothing short of a revolution in cosmetic dentistry. I know we just saw the number of dentists who were doing it and the number of people who were getting it just skyrocketed from that show. There was nothing else driving it except the awareness that was created of what a profound difference it makes when you can restore your smile.
I'll tell you something, ABC embraced that notion so strongly that when we started the show, people had to go through a psych evaluation, then they would see the plastic surgeon, and then they would see me. They reversed the order. First, they saw me. If I couldn't do their teeth, they didn't even spend money with the psych evaluation and the plastic surgeon, because they realized that no teeth, no makeover.
Yeah. And if it was too complicated, too long a case, you weren't going to be able to get it done for the show. Right.
We had to turn the longest they ever let me turn a case was 8 weeks. And that was when we did orthognathic surgery on a class 3 malocclusion. But everything else was done in 1 week.
Wow. Yeah. So serious turnaround. And so you do something else that's very interesting in your practice, which I didn't know about for a long time. And that's you've capitalized on a foreign language in your practice and really have for a long time, haven't you?
Well, I mean, capitalize, I was very fortunate when I finished dental school. I got to do a residency in Lausanne, Switzerland. So I'm fairly fluent in French. Probably half of the people in my office are fluent in Spanish. And my laboratory technician, who's there full time, is fluent in Farsi and also speaks French as well. So when we don't want patients to know what we're saying, I can speak to her in French. But that's been a big practice builder. Yeah.
And you generally have had an associate who was French speaking as well for a good part of the time.
I did. And that's why, even though I only lived there for 2 years, when I came back, I practiced with a fellow who spoke French as a first language for several years. So I got to really continue and remember French. The two things I love to say I got from living in Switzerland, besides the great experience as a dentist, was I learned to ski, and maintenant je peux parler français and avant je peux pas.
I know what you said because I studied French, even though I don't speak it well. But for our listeners, this is a really important marketing tool because people would say French. Why French? Why not Spanish or something like that? It's because you don't need 100,000 people. You need 1,000 people, 500 people in the practice. And what happens is that community talks to their community who says, this dentist, this practice speaks our language. People love to speak in their native tongue when they're dealing with their health and something they're anxious about, like their teeth. I have a friend who has a whole Chinese segment of his practice. It's a great way to grow a segment of your practice. And
absolutely.
And I imagine those patients are extremely loyal.
They are, and you're right.
And so before we go into, I want to go into some other stuff, but one of your real passions is this foundation that you've created to help people, help young people in particular, called the LEAP Foundation. So give us. I've been involved in it and been amazed at what happens in it. So I want people to really know about this because you come from a place of tremendous generosity. You're one of the kindest people I know, first of all. I don't think I've ever heard you say a bad thing about anybody, which I could teach you how to do that if you want to learn. But for now, let's help people to understand this LEAP Foundation, this amazing organization.
Well, let me bring you back to the beginning. And I usually don't do this, but since we're all dentists on this, you guys will know where we're coming from. Walter Haley, Itsy Bitsy Walter Haley was his nickname. I don't think he was 5 foot tall, was an insurance salesman in Hunt, Texas. And for some unknown reason, a large contingency of dentists started using Walter as their insurance guy. And Walter quickly learned, and this was back in the 80s, that dentists don't know anything about business at all. In fact, business was like a bad word in dentistry back then. Like, you're supposed to make money? Oh no, that's not okay. So Walter started something called Dental Boot Camp, where he literally taught dental teams how to be profitable. Well, it became kind of cultish in a way, in a good way. And a lot of the people that participated said, these ideologies are really good. And I wish my kids could come to a program like this. So he started a foundation to teach students, young students, the same skills. We had done work with Walter in the Crown Council, and so he asked me to come as a mentor. So as you come to LEAP as a mentor, I went to his program as a mentor for many years. Unfortunately, Walter passed away 14 years ago at the age of 85. And when he did, the program left with him. And I thought, this is too important to really not exist. So we rebranded it. We made it LEAP. We made it a nonprofit. We moved it from Hunt, Texas to UCLA. And we put on a really robust, fun, exciting program every year for the last 13 years. Now, unfortunately, this year it had to be virtual. But the thing that's really warmed my heart the most about this, Fred, is not only from my friends like you and other people who have come and given time, but listen to this lineup. Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Hopkins, Paula Abdul, Eva Longoria, Kathy Bates, Michael Strahan, Usher, Jason Alexander. I can go on and on and on. And these people come and speak for free. Kevin Nealon, Seth Green. Because they, like me, believe that, the youth of America are our future. And the part that would really shock you probably is how candid they are. Mark Wahlberg got on stage and talked about being a gangster, a hoodlum, and being thrown in jail, and what he did to transform his life. Kids today sit there and they compare their deepest, darkest insides to everybody else's bright, sunny outsides. And they don't realize that celebrities have problems, Yeah. And, Anthony Hopkins will tell you alcohol almost destroyed his life. He's a big supporter of AA and is very unabashed about talking about that. So it's a great opportunity for kids to get a real dose of reality. And we teach things at LEAP that they don't learn anywhere else. For instance, appreciation. And I'm sure you have some of these. These are appreciation notes.
I have a collection of those. They're fabulous. Yeah.
And we tell the kids, when you're at LEAP and somebody does something you like, you write an appreciation note. Well, our last live year, we had 400 students in the program. And I got 400 I appreciate notes. And those notes were priceless. And 99% of those notes would say something like, hey, Dr. Bill, I appreciate LEAP and your whole team because you changed my life. And I know we did. Now, I said 99%. You know why? Because 1% of those will say, hey, Dr. Bill, LEAP saved my life.
That's
and
true.
I know it did.
I got chills thinking about it because I saw it happening.
Yeah.
So for people who are wondering exactly what it is, it's 5 days, right?
Hold on one sec, Fred. Okay. Georgie, my daughter's here, Seth. Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Wait, come closer. She just got her hair done.
We have a special guest. So if you're only listening on the show, you won't be able to see Georgie's new hairstyle.
Georgie, show him.
Okay, sure. Hey.
Hi. Wow, it looks fantastic.
It looks great. Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm beaming.
Oh, careful. Yeah. Okay. Love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
So LEAP, 5 days, right? And it's in residence when it's live, which it has been, and I think we're hoping to do a combination this year.
Right. So
tell us all the details.
So it's students age 15 to 25. The next program will be July 18th to the 24th at UCLA. We're going to use the stage there, and hopefully we can at least put like 50 students in the audience. We usually have 400. If they want information, go to www.leapfoundation.com. But what we do at LEAP is
hang on, I just want people. I'm going to put it. Don't worry, I'll put that in the show notes. So the dates and the URL, so you'll be able to find it. So
great.
Yes.
But the thing that I think we're known for is we teach these students things that they don't learn in school, but they need in life. I mean, we teach them public speaking. We teach them how to communicate. We teach them networking. We teach them how to write a resume, how to apply for a job. I mean, I can go on and on. I do a whole thing called the 100-Year Lifestyle on lifestyle and fitness and just staying healthy throughout your life.
Well, and you talk about how to think about manage your time, manage your money, how to have manners. I mean, there's a whole section on how to be a respectful person through that. I mean, it is all of these, so many of these things that they don't learn. And then, as you say, it is these, you have so many featured speakers. Now, you mentioned the celebrities, but there's people from all walks of life, people who've written phenomenal self-help books who show up there and speak to these kids and give them insights that, hey, I wish I had at 35, or 40, some of these things. So it's a tremendous gift, and you see them transform. A lot of them get sent there by their parents and they're really resistant on day one. And Bill and I and the rest of the involved, we sit back and we wait, because we know they're going to come over to our side sometime in day 2. The hardcore ones, maybe day 3.
Well, the biggest thing since I took the program over, when we originally did it with Walter Haley and Steve Anderson, 99% of the students there were sons and daughters of dentists who begrudgingly had to go, right? Now, maybe 5% of the students come from dental families. 40% of the students come from families that are affluent enough to pay for them. 60% of the students come on scholarship. So it's quite a process to get a scholarship. And I'll tell you something, we hit the ground running. It's not like the old days where we had to kind of warm up to them and get them to buy in. That 60% that come in on scholarship are so raring to go, it's contagious. And then even the 40% that are maybe, kind of sitting on the edge come in and they're kind of pushed over the edge right away.
Yeah, well, I had the tremendously satisfying opportunity of speaking at LEAP 2 years ago, the last live one that we did. And I've written a book on how to cultivate the superpower of boldness. So that was my first time getting up speaking about it. And I told them how to create it for themselves. And I said, one of the things I said is you got to do some simple exercises like that teach you not to worry about being embarrassed, like wear a Band-Aid on your face, even though there's nothing bothering you or there's no cut underneath it. And don't explain why you're wearing it. We come back after lunch and there's a dozen kids they found Band-Aids and they put them on their faces. It was so interesting because as a speaker, the dream is to be in front of people where you can reach out and touch their lives. I mean, that's why we do it. That's why you speak. You're trying to help people have better careers and better lives. When you look at 400 kids riveted, sucking in everything you say, it's a peak experience. I gotta tell people who are thinking of sending their kids or sponsoring a kid. You may know somebody whose kid really could use this, or you just want to look at something to donate to the LEAP Foundation. As Bill says, they do about 60% scholarships. This is a heck of a thing to do for somebody. This changes the trajectory of their whole life.
Thanks, Fred.
So let's talk more about the industry itself. What surprised you about dentistry when you first got into it?
It's funny because this is so bad, but it's still shocking to me. I think you get into it thinking, wow, the biggest challenge is going to be dealing with patients. Their fears, their insecurities, that pales in comparison to the society we live in today. The hardest part of business now, employees. It's crazy, especially in California.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally a joke. I mean, I used to love my employees. I was friends with my employees. I hung out with my employees. No more. I don't even talk to them. Honest to God.
You can't hug them, that's for sure.
You can't tell them they look pretty. You can't. If you walk in and you sell, oh my gosh, you look stunning today, you get sued. Like, what kind of freaking world are we living in? I don't even talk. I talk to my chairside assistant and my office manager. And other than that, I don't even talk to my employees. And it's kind of sad to me. Yeah, I liked it better the old way. I liked it better when they were my friends, where I really felt like we were a family. Now, I just feel like I'm their payroll provider, you know? Like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to know anything about you. I hate that part. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And it's just, and our legal system, that's even worse. I mean, it's just ridiculous what you have to do today. And I don't like that. Yeah. I still love dentistry. I love my patients. I embrace them. I hug them and I tell them they're beautiful and it makes me happy. I would never say that to my assistant anymore. And that's sad.
Yeah. No, it's, we've been around dentistry long enough to watch all of these cycles of change. And that's really one of the most difficult ones, because you're trying to build a culture where everyone is friendly and feels like a family and is supportive and stuff like that. And suddenly that's become incredibly risky. And that from a marketing standpoint, I look at that and say, that's hard, because the patient's going to pick up on that. This just feels like a very professional environment. The warmth is taken away. And that helps people to accept dentistry when they feel that environment. And if you can't do that, it's going to hurt that experience of I'm always promoting the remarkable patient experience. That's part of it, is they feel this warmth and trust and friendliness from the team. And I mean, in your team, you're doing it with your patients, but when you can't do it with your team, it's problematic.
Fred, honestly, some aspects of it, I'm sorry, I just think it's ridiculous. I have a friend who's a manager at Target who literally was put on notice to get fired because he used the wrong pronoun with one of his employees. He literally said, can you please go tell him to do something? And that person didn't identify as a him. He wanted to identify as a them.
Right.
And they, get this, on their name badge, it tells you what pronouns you can use with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not down with that whole program. Sorry. Call me old fashioned. I just think it's crazy. It's the trajectory of where things are going. I was just on a Zoom call with a dental school, and in their Zoom name, they, in parentheses, had their pronouns, so that you would know ahead of time, because the school has learned to protect themselves, right? So you've talk about Discus Dental, the course of that business, because you're one of the founding partners. You and Robert Heyman created that. I think do you want to talk about what you and Robert are cooking up next, or is that still a secret? I think it's in the secret sauce, but I will talk about some next things that are coming out this year that are exciting. But let's go back to the discus story. So it's kind of a fun story, Fred. I found this pattern in my life where every time I have actually committed to doing something purely out of philanthropy, it's ended up making me like a lot of money. And that was never the intention. So as you know, I am an avid fitness man, and I'm at the gym every day, and I'm working out. And this is back in 1988. This woman, Cynthia Hearn, walks up to me. I didn't know her, and says, Dr. Bill, would you like to help raise money for children's cancer research? And I wasn't wealthy. I was just starting off, but how can you say no to that, right? So I'm like, well, yeah, what do you need me to do? She said, well, you are a dentist, aren't you? And I said, I am. And she said, you're single, aren't you? I'm like, I am, and that's weird. She says, well, we're doing a bachelor auction at the MGM Grand, and we need 10 bachelors that we will sell to an audience of 1,000 women. I kind of felt like I'd already committed. So I'm like, okay, it was horrible, stupid, embarrassing, and humiliating all at once. But the good thing that came out of it was the guy who was embarrassed next to me was Robert Heyman. I didn't know Robert from a hole in the wall. Robert's the son of Fred Heyman. Fred Heyman created Beverly Hills. Fred Heyman was the mastermind who made Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills, Giorgio Cosmetics, 273, and on and on and on. Robert grew up in that industry. That was his DNA. And Robert was also an MBA, so he had a very strong business background. He knew manufacturing, he knew cosmetics, and with his experience in that and my experience in dentistry, we created Discus Dental, and we put our first whitening product out, which was Night White. And, Night White didn't explode. It did well, though, but we did, our first year in business, we did 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 16 million. And we grew and grew and grew. And it kind of plateaued right around 2002, 2003 at 76 million. And then boom, I got an Extreme Makeover. And that year it jumped from 76 million to 101. The next year, 136. And the following year, almost $200 million in sales with Zoom. Incredible. So it was an amazing experience. The two things I really stress at Leap is I always tell kids, don't wait for opportunities in life, make them. If you sit there waiting for the universe, you can wait forever. You want an opportunity, make it. And number two, when you do get an opportunity, don't take it, master it. And there's a big difference. Look, when I first got on Extreme Makeover, I stunk, just like I'm sure the first time you got in front of the camera. But I was smart enough to know how bad I was. So instead of continuing to stink, I took acting classes, hosting classes, teleprompting classes. I hired the woman who worked with all the kids on American Idol, and I had her put me in a mock interview situation with real interviewers to teach me how to interview, to teach me how to do what you and I are doing right now, And I worked in it, I worked on it, and I worked on it because my goal was to be the best version of me I could be. And it worked. It worked. Our company grew and grew and grew as a result of it.
Well, and discipline is something you have been very dedicated to. I look at Leap and how much work goes involved in creating that. And you've got a whole team that's disciplined in creating it. You're very disciplined about your physical conditioning. If you want to see something amazing, become one of Bill's 1 million+ Instagram followers and see some of the videos that he's done. His physical gymnastic capability is even better than mine, I would say, by maybe an order of magnitude or two. He is for any age, not his age, he's in unbelievable shape. And it's from the discipline, from the dedication to it. It inspires people. I believe that there's a push-up contest at Leap every year that none of these pumped up, hyped up kids manage to beat you at. And so that discipline, that idea of mastery and taking the opportunity. I love the fact that because as I talk about marketing and I talk about boldness, do that thing, go do the auction, go do that where they auction you a bachelor auction. You go, this is kind of ridiculous, but what the heck, right? And from it comes an endless stream, like an immeasurable amount of success, really, that no one would have guessed at. While you kept practicing, you kept getting better and better at dentistry. And then it turns into extreme makeover. I mean, all of these things blossom from you stepping up and just going, yeah, why not? And then I want to excel. I don't want to be good at this. I want to master it. I want to be better than just great. And that's what I see you do. And you're still practicing dentistry. And I know that behind that giant picture, you can't see behind Bill, but there's a giant video screen aquarium if you're only listening to this, but behind that is a giant vault where there's all this cash, just a ridiculous amount of cash. So he doesn't need to work anymore, but he's still constantly improving himself, making a difference in the world, getting better, and still showing up and taking care of patients. So, but along this way, what were some of the interesting blunders, like mistakes? Sometimes it's mistakes that turn into successes, but sometimes you've just made the absolute wrong decision. And because a lot of people think, well, sure, Bill just stumbled all the way to the top, as opposed to, success, failure, along the way. So if you can think of some of those things, that always helps people to go, oh yeah, okay, I do that, or I did that, or I'm still doing that, or that happened to me too.
Well, we had some in discus that were a lot more dramatic than the ones in my dental practice. A lot of the success of discus, I really credit to Robert, who was the brains behind it and the business. I went and I started taking courses at UCLA, extension courses, so I could understand, a lot of the financial part of the company. That was just not something that was in my wheelhouse. Probably our biggest blunder at discus was when we promoted the launch of Day White. Night White had been huge, and we came up with a formulation to, instead of having to wear Night White all night long, we could whiten your teeth overnight, or you can do it during the day for 20 minutes with Day White. It was a 22% carbamide peroxide equivalent gel, which really worked quickly. And when you advertise in dentistry today and DPR and all these different things, you need to do your ad buys a few months earlier. So we projected our launch date, and we spent lots and lots of money, and we sold the living daylights out of this stuff. I mean, it was like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And our launch date approaches, and we have no product. And it's a week, and it's 2 weeks, and it's 3 weeks, and dentists are getting very edgy. And they want their money back. And the last thing you want to do in business is give money back, especially when you're, on like a shoestring budget and you just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising and R&D and blah, 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 blah. And so we were about 3 weeks into this, and we're starting to get irate phone calls. And something magical happened, Fred. We had one of those epic earthquakes in LA.
a natural disaster excuse.
And then when Dennis would call, well, that just delayed things more, right? So when Dennis called, instead of getting mad at us, we played the earthquake card, which was a real thing. We said, look, because it did. I mean, even though we were still maybe 2 weeks away, now they pushed it down another week. And then they felt sorry for us and let us keep their money. So.
Yeah. Okay. So the earth actually does open up for you, Bill.
It moved me, Fred.
It's and I'm sure, and I watched Discus become a very successful business, and it's true, Robert. He really was just a very strong businessman and just a very good marketer. You want to know the secret? You want to know the secret to Discus? And I've never said this on a podcast or any other show. I'll tell you what our real secret was. When we entered the market, we were up against big companies, especially when Procter and Gamble and all these guys come out. I mean, how do you beat these guys? I'll tell you how you beat them. We were quick and nimble. It was just Robert and I. When you are in a big company like P&G and you want to change anything, there's such a line of demand, right? If Robert and I saw something that wasn't working, trust me, overnight, we did something else. And we were able to beat these guys in their own game because we were quick and nimble and freaking edgy. You want to know our best trade show ever in the history of trade shows? Which one was this? Because you always had a phenomenal booth. Chicago Midwinter. That's the biggest one, right? Yeah. You know the old saying, ask for forgiveness, not permission? Yes. Do you know what we did at that show that drove sales? It was the first time ever where we did over $1 million a day in sales. What did you do? So now I'm hanging on the edge of my seat. I can't remember what happened. So we put a bar in our booth. Oh, yes, of course, which if they don't allow, right? Well, they don't anymore. But I'll tell you something. Robert and I sat down and we strategized. We said, hey, it works in Vegas. Free drinks. Free drinks. It works at IDS, right? In Europe, they all got bars and stuff. Free drinks, baby. Yeah. When you get dentists liquored up, they buy everything. And we did over $1 million a day in sales. And that was a one and doneer because after that, every trade show said no, but it was not in the rules. And instead of going to them and saying, hey, what do you think about maybe if we kind of put a bar in we didn't ask. We just said, hey, it's not in the rules. It doesn't say we can't. And we carded everybody. They were all legal. So. Well, you also saw the opportunity to launch essentially your own trade show, your event, the Extravaganza. Which was phenomenal. I mean, think of this. We had Bill Cosby in his heyday, Dr. Phil. We had Norman Schwarzkopf. We had Lou Holt, Donald Trump. In his heyday. I mean, oh my gosh, this pains me to say this. He was a great speaker. I'll tell you a funny Donald Trump story. So I was married at the time to Jennifer Murphy, who was on The Apprentice. That was our connection to Donald. And about a week before the Extravaganza, this is when the Apprentice was in its prime. Jennifer and I went and listened to Donald speak at the Learning Annex to 20,000 people. And literally every sentence, he dropped the F-bomb. And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And so we had this tradition where we would have a breakfast with our keynote speaker just to kind of enlighten them on the culture of our company in case they didn't do research and didn't know anything. So we're sitting at breakfast with Robert and Donald and I, and
And I started,
just for the record, I was at that breakfast. I actually sat next to Trump at that breakfast. So,
oh my gosh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
So, and his handlers insisted on you calling him Mr. Trump. Remember that?
Yes.
So I said, Mr. Trump, our dentists are very conservative, and I really don't think that they'll appreciate you, using profanity. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, dropping the F-bomb is not going to go over well. He goes, are you kidding? Everybody loves when I swear. Everybody loves how I present. Everybody loves, like, nobody at that table were going to love us. And then it occurred to me, like, my kids were going to be there. I'm like, but Mr. Trump, my kids will be there. He goes, kids? Well, how many? I said, there's like 30 kids coming. He goes, well, how old? I said, well, they were like 7 to 10. He goes, oh, I can't swear them. Now, just to be safe, I seated all 30 kids. Remember this, Fred? In the front row, right in front of his podium, just in case he forgot. And he went out there and he nailed it. Like, he did of all these great speakers we had, it pains me to say he did a great job. Yeah. He really did. And he didn't swear once.
Yeah, you taught him how to work clean for the first time, which, eventually you got to, as a politician, you got to learn to work clean too. But so what's next for you? What's on your horizon?
So I had to sign a non-compete in whitening when we sold Discus Dental to Zoom to Philips. And I was not allowed to do any whitening products. That's expired. So last year I did a product with a company called FabFitFun. It's a company that makes these gift boxes for women with a bunch of different products in it for them to try. But this year we're going to be launching 2 new products that I'm super duper excited about. So you ready?
Sure.
When we owned Discus, we had a product called Breath RX gumballs. Those little white. Yeah, I love those. Now, problem is, I hate coffee. I hate it. I hate the taste. I hate the aftertaste. I hate the fact that it stains your teeth. I hate but I love caffeine. I hate soda, but I love caffeine. So what I used to do is take NoDoz, those little 200 milligrams, it's supposed to be the equivalent of 1 cup of coffee, and chew it up with a gumball, right? Because if you chew it, it doesn't taste that good. And if you swallow it, it takes too long to work.
Yeah.
And I got a little buzz, and it kind of got me going, like when you need that little pick-me-up. So we're launching Buzz Balls, caffeinated chewing gum.
Nice. Very nice.
I trademarked the name. Ironically, there's an alcoholic drink out now called Buzz Balls, which came in after me. I own the trademark in gum. They own it in alcoholic beverages, but that will launch this year. And the second product that's going to launch, I'm not going to tell you too much about, but in our industry, when you have something that's so cool that you think it can potentially put everybody else out of business, we call that a category killer. I have a product that I'm launching this year with Bobby from DenMat, who's helping develop it, that is going to be a category killer in take-home tooth whitening. And I'm super excited about it. We're working with one of the biggest companies in America. It's called Great Healthworks. They do a product called Omega XL. It's $1 billion SKU. They spend north of $30 million a month on marketing in infomercials. So you'll see this in infomercials. I've already been approved to do Shark Tank, so we can do that. I'm not sure if I'm going to or not. And then we'll probably do QVC, HSN, and the whole thing. So keep your eyes open. When it hits, you'll know it because it will be everywhere. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, exciting stuff. It feels feels like you're still at the beginning of your career. You're just adding one more heyday to it, and it's fun to always hear about this, because I've known you for so long and watched your great success and your generosity that has always been tied to it, and your discipline and hard work. Your reputation is well deserved. Your recognition worldwide is well deserved. I mean, folks, we are technically listening to the most famous dentist in the world, the most recognized dentist in the world, because in pretty much in any English-speaking country, the dentists know who you are, and I'm hoping to get there. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
There's an opportunity if you want to invest in my new company, Fred.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. I don't learn lessons. I'm an idiot. If we know any. No, I'm in. Whatever the heck it is, but you don't even have to tell me what it is. I'm in. It's been a pleasure and an honor to know you, and you and I have gotten to spend more time together in recent years, which is great. And so I want to thank you for being on. I think everybody who listens to this is really going to benefit from the adventurous career you've had and the dedication that you've experienced. And in a year or two, we'll cover this, the next remarkable thing that you've done. So thanks, thank you, Bill. And to all of those listeners out there, this is the usual, if you like it, share it. If you really like it, really share it. You share it even if you don't like the podcast. Subscribe to it. And if you know some remarkable dentist, or you think you might be remarkable enough yourself, nominate yourself to be on this episode. But, Bill set the bar kind of high today. So,
and I'll tell you something, even though, I do have a lot of followers on Instagram, I actually answer all my DMs. So if anybody wants to reach me directly, just go to Dr. Bill Dorfman, Dr. Bill Dorfman on Instagram, and I promise I will answer. And Fred, thank you for the opportunity. We have had a lot of history, a lot of great times. Orange Susie. I mean, we've done some really epic things in my life, and you've been a really great friend, a great supporter, and thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And to everyone else listening, keep on becoming remarkable.